Carlos Alcaraz has not had the start to the season that many expected. After his elimination in Indian Wells and his unexpected loss in Miami, doubts about his performance have started to grow. Is he going through a crisis, or is it just a bump in the road? Former tennis player Alex Corretja is clear on this: there is no reason to be alarmed. With the clay court season just around the corner, the Spaniard has a new opportunity to prove his true level. Will this be the turning point for Alcaraz? The start of 2025 has been a tough test for Carlos Alcaraz. Although he won a title in Rotterdam, his performance in the Indian Wells and Miami tournaments was below expectations. The absence of Jannik Sinner, who was suspended for doping, seemed like a great opportunity for Alcaraz to close the gap in the battle for world number one. However, the outcome was very different. Sinner, without playing, gained an advantage, while Alcaraz failed to capitalize on the circumstances in his favor. In Indian Wells, where he had been champion in 2022 and 2023, he lost in the semifinals to Jack Draper, who eventually won the title. It was a tough loss, but within expectations. What was concerning came in Miami, where he was eliminated in the first round by David Goffin, raising questions about his physical and mental state. His level of play was not the usual, and this sparked alarms in the circuit. Is he going through a slump, or is this just part of his learning process? In the face of uncertainty, Alex Corretja has tried to calm the mood and analyze the situation with perspective. The former Spanish tennis player, in conversation with Juanjo Lopez, Alcaraz's doctor, made it clear that the Spaniard is still in the middle of his growth process. When you lose some matches, it's normal for doubts to arise, but now comes the clay season, which I'm convinced will be very good for him, explained Corretja, confident that Alcaraz will recover his best version. The clay court season has always been a favorable surface for Carlos Alcaraz. In 2023, he won important titles on this surface, and his aggressive and physical style of play suits clay perfectly. Monte Carlo, Barcelona, Madrid, Rome, and, of course, Roland Garros are tournaments where he can shine and put behind the frustration of the American swing. Corretja also reminded that Alcaraz is still a very young player and that his meteoric career has raised expectations to very high levels. He has set the bar so high that any loss stands out, but we should not panic. He's in a learning process, and he has plenty of time to evolve, emphasized the former tennis player. These words serve as a reminder that even great champions have gone through difficult times before consolidating themselves at the top. The Spaniard has shown that he knows how to overcome adversity. On previous occasions, he has responded to losses with decisive victories, and his team's confidence in his ability to bounce back remains intact. Corretja is convinced that when he gains rhythm in the clay season, he will again compete for major titles. When Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and New York come, he will be aiming to win the titles. This 2025 will still be very good for Carlos, he concluded with complete certainty. The recent tournaments have been challenging for Carlos Alcaraz, but his tennis story is just beginning. His talent and winning mentality remain intact, and the arrival of the clay court season presents a great opportunity for him to recover his best level. As Corretja wisely said, we should not get carried away by anxiety. The Mercian still has all the potential to dominate the circuit again. Will the clay swing be the turning point in his season? Only time will tell, but the truth is that Alcaraz still has everything to shine in 2025. Carlos Alcaraz surprised with a confession after his unexpected elimination at the Miami Open 2025. The Spaniard admitted that he had been more focused on the level of his opponent than on his own game, something Patrick Mouratoglou considers risky. But far from being a weakness, Alcaraz seems to be following in Rafael Nadal's footsteps, who once admitted to having lost his mental strength. Is Alcaraz going through a similar process to what Nadal experienced? Could he find the key to recovering his best version on the clay? Carlos Alcaraz has not had the start to the season he expected. Although his performance in Indian Wells was acceptable, his elimination in the second round of the Miami Open against David Goffin raised alarms. After the match, the Spaniard surprised with a statement in which he admitted that he was more concerned about his opponent's level than his own. This honesty has not gone unnoticed in the circuit, and Patrick Mouratoglou has given his opinion on the matter. The prestigious French coach, known for his analysis of elite tennis, believes that Alcaraz's sincerity could backfire. Saying something like that is a choice. It can be liberating, but it can also put more pressure on him, said Mouratoglou, highlighting that many players prefer not to reveal their vulnerabilities. However, the Frenchman also reminded that a similar situation occurred with Rafael Nadal when the Mallorcan admitted to having lost his mental strength during a tough period in his career. The comparison between Alcaraz and Nadal is no coincidence. Both have shown great maturity from a young age, but they have also faced emotional challenges in the elite of tennis. For Muratoglu, the key will be how Alcaraz handles this situation in the upcoming tournaments. If he manages to channel this experience as Nadal once did, he could come back stronger than ever. Beyond the mental aspect, Muratoglu also analyzed one of Alcaraz's greatest strengths, his power in shot making. If you want to generate power, you need freedom of movement. That's one of the reasons why he hits so hard, explained the French coach, recalling what he saw at the Australian Open. This technical aspect remains one of the Merchant's main weapons, but it needs to be complemented with mental stability and confidence in his game. Aware of his situation, Alcaraz has made a key decision: to rest before the clay court swing. After the physical and mental exhaustion of the early months of the year, the Spaniard has chosen to recharge his batteries before tackling important tournaments such as Barcelona, Madrid, and Rome. His goal is clear: to regain his feel on his favorite surface and arrive in the best possible shape for Roland Garros. Clay has always been a refuge for Alcaraz. On this surface, he has won some of his most important titles and shown his best version. This year, he also has the opportunity to rack up crucial points in the rankings, as he couldn't play in Barcelona or Madrid in 2024 due to injury. With this incentive, the Merchant will look to put the doubts behind and show why he remains one of the circuit's big stars. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have dominated world tennis in recent years, but new threats are emerging. One of the names that has drawn the most attention is Czech Jakub Mensik, who, at just 19, reached the semifinals of the Miami Masters 1000, becoming the fifth youngest semifinalist in the history of the tournament. Will Mensik be the next big rival for Alcaraz and Sinner? Are we witnessing the birth of a new star in tennis? Tennis is constantly evolving, and the new generations are fighting for their place among the best. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have won the last 5 Grand Slam titles, consolidating themselves as the main figures of the circuit. However, other players are proving that they can compete at the highest level. Alexander Zverev, at 27, is still in the race but without a Grand Slam title to his name. Meanwhile, young talents like Jack Draper and Holger Rune have shown that the generational shift is underway. In this context, Jakub Mensik has burst onto the scene in the Miami Masters 1000. At 19 years and 6 months, the Czech reached the semifinals, becoming the 5th youngest player in history to reach this stage of the tournament. Only figures like Felix Auger-Aliassime, Rafael Nadal, Carlos Alcaraz, and Lleyton Hewitt surpassed him in precocity. This milestone not only places him on the tennis map but also makes him a real threat to the current circuit dominators. Mensik has shown impressive maturity in his game. His victory over Frenchman Arthur Fils in the quarterfinals made it clear that he is not just a promise, but a player capable of competing against the best. His combination of power, technique, and coolness in key moments makes him a player to watch. Additionally, with his 1.93 meters of height and an aggressive playing style, he has all the qualities needed to stand out on the ATP circuit. Tennis history has shown that great champions always have to face the arrival of new generations. Alcaraz and Sinner have been the most prominent in recent years, but now they will have to face players like Mensik, who are looking to carve their place in the elite. Although Mensik currently occupies the 54th spot in the rankings, his performance in Miami will ensure a significant rise, bringing him closer to the top 30. His progress is reminiscent of other great talents who made their mark on the circuit. In 2024, Mensik had already shown signs of his potential by reaching the final of the ATP 250 in Doha. However, his performance in Miami has been his greatest calling card so far. His ability to compete in important tournaments and his rapid evolution make him a player to keep an eye on. Czech tennis has had great figures throughout history, and Mensik seems ready to continue that tradition. Since Thomas Berdych in 2015, no Czech has reached the semifinals in Miami. Now, with more experience and consistency, Mensik could become a regular in the latter stages of the biggest tournaments, challenging the best players in the world. Carlos Alcaraz is not having the start to the season he expected. After an early elimination at the Miami Open and without having won a Masters 1000 title in over a year, his team has decided to change strategy. The big news in his calendar is the possible inclusion of the Monte Carlo Masters 1000, a tournament he originally had no plans to play. Is this change of plans the key to regaining his best version? How will his decision affect his rivalry with Jannik Sinner? Carlos Alcaraz's 2025 has been full of ups and downs. While he began the year with a victory in Rotterdam, the Indian Wells and Miami tournaments have raised many questions about his form. In the first, he lost in the semifinals to Jack Draper, while in the second, he was eliminated in his debut against David Goffin. These losses have complicated his chances of closing the gap to number 1 in the rankings and winning another Masters 1000 title. Sinner's absence due to suspension represented a great opportunity to close the distance, but the reality has been very different. In response to this situation, Alcaraz and his team have decided to adjust his calendar. Originally, the Mercian had planned to skip the Monte Carlo Masters 1000 to arrive fresher for the key part of the clay season. However, after his early exit in Miami, it seems they have opted to play this tournament and in turn, drop the Rome Masters 1000. Thus, his new route to Roland Garros will include Monte Carlo, Barcelona, and Madrid before heading to the second Grand Slam of the season. The change is driven by the need to accumulate more match rhythm on clay, a surface where Alcaraz has shown more dominance. In 2023, he couldn't play Barcelona or Madrid due to injury, which took away continuity in his preparation for Roland Garros. Now, with a well-structured clay season, he hopes to regain his best level and compete confidently for his third Grand Slam title. One of the most interesting consequences of this calendar adjustment is that Alcaraz will not face Jannik Sinner until Roland Garros. The Italian, suspended for doping, will return to competition in Rome, his only test before Paris. This means the anticipated rivalry between the two will not have a new chapter until the most important tournament of the clay season, increasing expectations for a potential showdown at Roland Garros. The last time Alcaraz and Sinner faced each other was in the Beijing final in October 2024, where the Mercian prevailed. Since then, Sinner has not experienced defeat, adding even more intrigue to his anticipated return. However, the lack of competitive rhythm for the Italian could work in Alcaraz's favor, who will already be adapted to clay after Monte Carlo, Barcelona, and Madrid. On the other hand, Alcaraz's decision to skip Rome could also be due to a physical recovery strategy. The clay swing is very demanding, and a strategic rest before Roland Garros could be crucial to arriving in optimal condition. Throughout his career, he has shown that his best level tends to appear when he has sufficient time to prepare and avoid muscle overload. Carlos Alcaraz's adjustment in his calendar reflects the need to find a balance between preparation and rest. The inclusion of Monte Carlo and absence from Rome could be key to his performance at Roland Garros. Additionally, the lack of confrontations with Sinner until Paris adds an element of mystery to the battle for number 1. Will this be the perfect plan for Alcaraz to recover his best form? Will he be able to take advantage of Sinner's absence on the clay swing to accumulate important points? What do you think about Carlos Alcaraz's decision to modify his calendar? Do you believe this strategy will allow him to arrive at his best version at Roland Garros? Leave us your comments and don't forget to subscribe for more content about the world of tennis. See you in the next video.